4 police officers at the U.S. Capitol in Washington have given dramatic accounts of how they confronted rioters during the storming of the building on January 6. The officers were defending the Capitol against hundreds of supporters of then-President Donald Trump. The rioters had entered the building with a goal of stopping Joe Biden from being certified the winner of the presidential election. The officers provided their testimony on the first day of a congressional inquiry into events that day.
Beaten, racially abused, threatened with death. 4 of the officers who stood against the mob that day recounted the terrifying moments in vivid detail.
Do you swear?
More and more insurrectionists were pouring into the area by the speaker's lobby near the rotunda, and some wearing MAGA hats and shirts that said Trump 2020. I told them to just leave the Capitol, and in response they yelled, "No, man, this is our house. President Trump invited us here."
A police officer.
At times overwhelmed by emotion, officers provided new testimony before the nation.
I knew I couldn't sustain much more damage and remain upright. At best, I would collapse and be a liability to my colleagues. At worst, be dragged out into the crowd and lynched. Unable to move or otherwise signal the officers behind me that I needed to fall back, I did the only thing that I could do and screamed for help.
My fellow citizens, including so many of the people I put my life at risk to defend, are downplaying or outright denying what happened. I feel like I went to hell and back to protect them and the people in this room. The indifference shown to my colleagues is disgraceful.
But the truth.
While the opening hearing focused mostly on the officers' gripping accounts, Committee Chair Bennie Thompson ended the day with the promise to go after the people responsible for the day of violence.
We need to understand how and why the big lie festered. We need to know minute by minute how January 6th unfolded. We need to understand how the rotten lie behind January 6th has continued to spread and feed the forces that would undermine American democracy.
A majority of Republicans believe Biden was illegitimately elected, a lie that Donald Trump has helped spread. The former president has also downplayed his alleged role in inciting the insurrection, and many others in his party have perpetuated a false version of events. On the day of the hearing, several Republican lawmakers met in front of the Justice Department building to protest against the investigation and on behalf of jailed January 6 rioters. Congresswoman Liz Cheney, one of 2 Republicans on the committee, had harsh words for them.
The fact that many members of our leadership and others, the fact that they've gone from recognizing what happened on the 6th to protesting in front of the Justice Department on behalf of those who were part of the insurrection is something that I can't explain. I think it's a disgrace.
Bennie Thompson said the committee could meet again before the end of August, and that he would seek testimony from Trump administration officials and possibly the former president himself.
DW's Stefan is in Washington and has been following the hearing on Capitol Hill. He sent us this assessment.
The officer's testimony today heard at the first hearing of the Selective Committee in Congress was gut-wrenching and critical. The testimony of those officers established something like a baseline, a status quo for what the hearing was supposed to deliver and what the committee is supposed to deliver. An investigation of what happened on January 6th. Why did this happen on January 6th? What led to January 6th? Who is responsible for what happened on January 6th? Who pulled the strings behind? And foremost, what happened afterwards? How are we as American people, how is this country expected to A, heal from this, what happened on January 6th, and make things better? Because, as all committee members said, this was an attack on democracy, on the American Constitution, and on the peaceful transition of power. Most importantly, that's the point committee members all made, is that they're doing their job because they don't want things to be not unpacked. It is important, they say, for America to unpack everything, to bring everything on the table, to not push things under the rug and not talk about them.